I can remember as a youngster growing up, I thought basketball started with Dr. J. And then as I started playing and started hearing these names, I think Mr. Cooper came down to LSU and gave us word. But Chuck always says it. When you see the guys that paved the way for us, you just tell them thank you. I realized I wouldn't be here without those guys, without Chuck. I got to saw my idol. He didn't know he was my idol. I told Patrick Ewing I patted my whole game after you in high school. He said he never knew that. So, Chuck, thank you for saying that. But, I think these youngsters do need to understand that the guys that paved the way for us, show them some respect. And the best way you can show them respect is just shake their hand and say, thank you.
Shaquille O'Neal has built his entire life after basketball around one major belief. Respect in this game has to be earned, not handed out. And right now, one of the biggest examples of that debate is sitting on the Lakers bench with the most famous last name in basketball history. Shaq definitely has opinions about it, and that should not surprise anybody. Tell me in the comments, is it fair to put all this talk about disrespecting legends on Bronny James himself, or does that pressure fall completely on his father instead? The discussion around Bronny James and NBA legends is not really about Bronny personally doing or saying anything out of line. By almost every report, Bronny is a quiet and hard-working 20-year-old who spends time in the G League, keeps putting in work, and stays away from drama in the media. He does not carry himself like he is entitled to anything, and he is not out there taking shots at the stars who came before him. The issue people keep talking about is much bigger than Bronny himself. For many former players, it is about what his situation represents to people who had to fight their way into the league the old school way. And few players represent that grind mentality more than Shaquille O'Neal.
It's been noted that I had problems with a few people. But if you do your research, the people that I have problems with were not authoritative figures. I respond excellent to authority. Jerry West was like that. Whenever I make a mistake, boy. And Jerry West comes in, what the F are you doing? Like I'm tired of losing. So he grabs me like right here and pins me up to the thing. You dummy. I went to the finals, I think he said 7 times. I went to the finals 7 times before I won. Your time's gonna come. So I was like, the great Jerry West lost 7 times before he won one. Oh, I don't feel so bad. So I still got a couple more times to lose. Jerry West is the man, he's the logo. He's God in my eyes.
Shaq's entire view of basketball comes down to one thing. In his eyes, fear and respect are the real currency of the NBA, and players only get those things through what they do on the court. This is the same Shaq who has spoken many times about what separates the true greats from everybody else. He once said he heard players talk about being afraid of Michael Jordan. He also heard players from Mario Chalmers' era say they feared Kobe Bryant. But according to Shaq, he has never really heard players say they feared LeBron James. That is the angle he uses when judging everything. Did you force people to respect you? Did you truly earn your spot? Or did something else help put you there? And when that same mindset gets applied to the Bronny James situation, a lot of people believe the answer becomes obvious.
With the 55th pick in the 2024 NBA Draft, the Los Angeles Lakers select Bronny James from the University of Southern California.
Bronny James entered the NBA as the 55th pick in the 2024 draft. He came into the league after one season at USC, where he averaged 4.8 points and 2.8 rebounds while shooting 36.6% from the field and 26.7% from three-point range. Those numbers usually do not grab a lot of attention from NBA scouts.
All ready? All right. You see the intensity, right? Yeah. You just play carefree though. Yeah. Don't worry about mistakes, just go out and play hard.
History tonight, the first father-son duo to play together in an NBA game.
Every year, plenty of college players with stronger stats go undrafted and never get close to an NBA roster. Bronny was selected, received a guaranteed contract, which is uncommon for late second-round picks, and ended up with one of the biggest franchises in sports. Many fans believe his connection to LeBron James played a huge role, especially after LeBron made it clear that sharing the court with his son was something he wanted badly.
Yeah, look, and it's loaded. The Eastern Conference is loaded. The Western Conference has some teams that are looking to come up. One of those, your former franchise, the Lakers. You know this better than anyone. They're a polarizing team around the league. This year, they made headlines after drafting Bronny to pair up with LeBron.
For someone like Shaq, who spent his entire career making opponents think twice before stepping into the paint, that kind of situation clashes with everything he believes basketball should stand for. Shaq earned 4 championships. He earned 15 All-Star appearances. He earned his place among the most dominant players ever by being such a force that teams had to change their entire game plans just to deal with him. Shaq did not have anything handed to him during his career. He took everything through hard work, dominance, and years of proving himself on the court. Because of that, the idea that a roster spot in the league he helped shape could go to someone mainly because of a famous last name goes against everything Shaq believes basketball should stand for. And that is where the bigger picture starts getting messy. The debate over respecting NBA legends connects directly to the back and forth that has been brewing between LeBron James and many members of the old guard. Earlier this year, LeBron James took to Instagram and spoke about the criticism he receives from retired players. He said there is a major difference between constructive criticism and soft hating, adding that a lot of the comments coming from older players have felt more like hate than helpful feedback. Those comments rubbed some people the wrong way. To many fans, it sounded like an entire generation of basketball legends was being painted as bitter former stars who simply could not accept the greatness of today's players. Shaq did not ignore those remarks. For years, he has sat on TNT's Inside the NBA, giving his opinions about the modern game. Sometimes he praises players, and sometimes he keeps it real when he feels criticism is deserved. So when LeBron talked about soft hating, many people felt those words landed right at Shaq's doorstep. Because of that, the relationship between Shaq and the LeBron camp already had some tension before Bronny's situation even entered the conversation. Once that layer got added, the whole thing started looking like one giant story in the eyes of critics. On one side, LeBron pushes back against legends and labels much of their criticism as hate. On the other side, many observers believe LeBron used his influence to help place his son on an NBA roster, despite concerns that Bronny's path was different from the traditional road many former stars had to travel. That is where some members of the old school see the contradiction. The issue is not about Bronny saying anything disrespectful himself. The criticism centers around the message people believe the situation sends. Some former players feel that asking legends to stop criticizing while also benefiting from extraordinary influence creates a conflict they cannot ignore. Those legends earned their opportunities through years of fighting for their spots. Shaq earned his, Michael Jordan earned his, Kobe Bryant earned his. And from the viewpoint of many retired stars, the system that demanded everything from them appears to work differently when one of the most famous names in sports is involved. That feeling, more than anything else, is what some of them see as the real insult. Interestingly, Shaq has been pretty careful when discussing Bronny directly, and that detail matters. Charles Barkley even joked that he avoids criticizing Bronny because he does not want LeBron pulling up on him. That was a reference to LeBron's courtside confrontation with Stephen A. Smith after Smith argued that Bronny belonged in the G League. Because of moments like that, there is now a strange atmosphere surrounding the topic. Some legends clearly have opinions about Bronny's situation, but several of them seem cautious about speaking too strongly because of the attention and backlash that can follow criticism involving LeBron's son. In the eyes of critics, Bronny has become a protected subject. And for many former players who never had anyone shielding them from harsh opinions during their own careers, that protection itself feels strange. To them, criticism has always been part of basketball. The protection angle has become impossible to ignore. Notice how many major outlets are careful when discussing Bronny's performances. His numbers this season have been tough. Across 42 games, he averaged 2.9 points, 0.5 rebounds, and 1.2 assists while playing fewer than 9 minutes a night. There was even a game against the Minnesota Timberwolves where he logged 5 minutes and finished with 0 points, 0 rebounds, and 0 assists, a stat line filled with nothing. Those are not numbers usually associated with a regular NBA rotation player. Yet many critics believe major networks avoid speaking too harshly about those struggles because nobody wants to find themselves on the wrong side of the league's biggest superstar. And the legends notice that. Shaq notices it. Barkley notices it. Plenty of old school players notice it. And what bothers them is that nobody protected them from tough truths when they were trying to establish themselves. Stephen A. Smith experienced that pressure firsthand. On First Take, he openly said Bronny belonged in the G League, which many people viewed as a reasonable basketball opinion based on the numbers. Not long after, LeBron approached him courtside at Crypto.com Arena in a heated exchange over those comments. For many people watching, the message felt loud and clear. Criticize Bronny, and you might find yourself dealing with LeBron James personally. That perception alone has only added more drama to an already explosive debate surrounding legends, criticism, and who really gets to decide how the game is supposed to work. That kind of influence changes the normal accountability that every other player in the NBA has to deal with. And for the legends, who faced endless criticism during their careers without anyone powerful enough to protect them, that protection is where they see the disrespect. In their eyes, it sends a message that the rules they had to live by suddenly do not apply in this situation. And this is where the comparison becomes even more interesting. Michael Jordan had sons too. Jordan had incredible influence over basketball, maybe more than any player ever. But he never used that influence to create NBA opportunities for his children. His sons played college basketball, and their basketball journey stopped there because that was where their talent level led them. Jordan allowed the system to play out naturally, and many former players point to that example when discussing fairness and opportunity. Stephen Hunter, who spent 10 years in the NBA fighting for every minute he received, called Bronny's guaranteed contract an egregious abuse of power, and brought up the Jordan comparison directly. Because late second-round picks almost never receive guaranteed contracts. That is simply how things usually work for players without extraordinary connections or influence, and that gets to the center of the entire argument. For decades, basketball legends played by one basic rule: produce results or somebody else takes your place. Earn your opportunity or lose it to someone who earned it more. Shaq played by those rules. Jordan played by those rules. Hall of Famers played by those rules. Role players played by those rules. Even veterans who spent years surviving on minimum contracts played by those same rules. But critics argue that the Bronny situation represents a rare moment where those standards appeared to bend for one family. And for somebody like Shaq, whose entire identity is built around the belief that basketball only gives you what you earn, that idea feels like a quiet slap at everyone who had to grind their way into the league the hard way. But here is where things get more complicated. An honest conversation has to include one major point. Bronny himself is not the villain in this story. He did not draft himself. He did not hand himself a guaranteed contract. He did not reportedly contact rival teams to influence the process. Reports suggested that role belonged to Rich Paul, and he certainly did not create the enormous expectations surrounding his name. At the end of the day, Bronny is a 20-year-old player placed under one of the brightest spotlights in sports because of circumstances far bigger than himself. Former NBA star Kenyon Martin made a similar point. He suggested that LeBron may have placed Bronny in a difficult position by bringing him into the most heavily watched situation imaginable before he was fully ready for that level of attention. Every missed shot becomes headline material. Every rough game turns into social media content. Every mistake gets replayed over and over. That is not exactly a calm environment for development. That is pressure on another level. So when people talk about disrespecting NBA legends, the argument many critics make is that the frustration flows from the top, not from Bronny himself. They believe LeBron disrespected legends by describing much of their criticism as soft hating. They also believe his influence challenged the merit-based system many former players spent decades building. Meanwhile, Bronny finds himself stuck right in the middle of the storm. He is carrying the weight of a controversy he did not create. He is receiving criticism tied to decisions that were much bigger than anything under his control, and that has made his basketball journey one of the most talked about stories in the sport. When people try to understand Shaq's frustration, many believe it is not really aimed at Bronny personally. Instead, they see it as frustration over what the entire situation represents and what it says about how respect, opportunity, and the values of the game have changed over time. That bigger picture is what continues to keep this debate alive, and why emotions around it remain so intense. The fear factor Shaq always talks about connects to this debate as well. For Shaq, respect cannot simply be handed out. You have to go out and take it. You force people to respect you by becoming impossible to ignore and impossible to deny. And that is why Bronny's situation is so complicated. Through no fault of his own, Bronny entered a situation where many people already had strong opinions about how he got there. Because of that, earning universal respect becomes much harder. Even if he eventually develops into a solid NBA rotation player, the circumstances surrounding his arrival will always be part of the conversation. And that is what makes the whole thing so tough for Bronny personally. His G League production, including 15.6 points per game on 56% shooting, shows there is real talent there. There are signs that he can continue growing as a player and prove plenty of people wrong. Devontae Graham, who actually played alongside Bronny in the G League, even said most of the criticism comes from the James name rather than Bronny's actual ability. According to Graham, Bronny has legitimate NBA talent based on what he saw up close. That opinion matters because it comes from someone who shared the floor with him and witnessed his game firsthand. But even that does not erase the larger issue many former players are reacting to. Because for the legends, the debate has never been strictly about talent. It has been about the process. Even if Bronny is better than many critics believe, some former players feel his journey bypassed a system that generations of stars had no choice but to respect. And that shortcut in their eyes is what keeps this conversation alive. When you view everything through Shaq's mindset, the same mindset that helped him win 4 championships and build a Hall of Fame career, the Bronny story becomes symbolic of a bigger change happening in today's NBA. To critics, it represents a league where powerful connections and famous names can sometimes create opportunities that used to depend almost entirely on production and performance. And for the legends who fought through brutal competition, battled physical teams like the Bad Boy Pistons, shared locker rooms with grinders, and earned every ounce of success through determination, seeing the rules appear to bend for one family can be difficult to accept. That is why many people say the issue was never really about Bronny saying or doing anything wrong. It was never about disrespectful comments or bad behavior. Instead, critics argue that it is about watching a system they sacrificed everything for seemingly become flexible when enough power and influence are involved. At its core, the debate was never truly about Bronny himself. It was about generations of players who spent their entire careers earning opportunities, only to feel that the standards they lived by no longer apply equally across the board. And from Shaq's perspective, a perspective built on earned respect and proving yourself through dominance, that idea clashes with everything he has believed in throughout his basketball life. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the criticism surrounding Bronny is fair, or do you believe too much pressure has been placed on him because of his last name? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and join the debate. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with other basketball fans so they can join the conversation too. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.